Hey, good morning, friends. Today, my friends, is Wednesday, November the 5th, 2025, and the time now is 7:49 a.m. So, friends, I want to talk about Italy, and I want to talk briefly and or specifically about a couple of articles that I came across that I read. And this pertaining to the idea of press violation in Italy. Basically, we are talking about the freedom of the press in Italy. So the European Commission, as well as a couple of institutions in Italy and in the West, have been expressing concern about the issue of press freedom in Italy. One source states that Italy, in terms of the press freedom record or statistics, Italy is about 46 in the world, 46 out of 180 countries in the world. Italy ranks 46 in terms of press freedom. So in Italy, it is said that the current far right leadership, the prime minister or the coalition in the government, they've been basically stifling press freedom in Italy. Now, friends, once again, it is said that the current prime minister of Italy and her coalition, her far right party, and the coalition in the Italian government or parliament or so, they've been suppressing press freedom in Italy, basically suing journalists, taking journalists off the air. A couple of editors or editor in chiefs or CEOs have been fired, and there have been a bunch of threats in terms of people losing their jobs or people being threatened to be fired or to be sued in the country. And there has been concern. And a couple of articles that I read, okay, one being Reuters article and the other one being The Guardian. And they emphasize what's happening in Italy. Now, friends, what is happening in Italy, to be fair, is not only happening in Italy, it is also happening throughout the West. And we are seeing this also in the United States. So both Italy and the United States are run by a right wing or a far right wing politician and or party or coalition. So in Italy, we have the Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, and also in the United States, we have Donald Trump. Basically, Donald Trump had been suing news agencies and also threatening journalists, calling the media fake news media, and so on. And even the Italian government, the Italian Prime Minister, had also done such thing, terming various sectors of the media as fake news and so on. So this is very interesting, but I do believe to look at it in terms of both Italy and the United States, we are seeing the far right movement leading the government and also on the rise, okay, tremendously. Now, my fear here is with the power of the United States, the power and might of the United States, the rising of China and the rising again of Russia, the current state and country Russia, which is currently defeating the United States and the West in Ukraine. We are seeing the global South resisting pressure and any attempt by the United States and the West to subjugate or resubjugate the global South, including Africa, is pulling away from the West. I do believe that we could be seeing a very strong level or sentiment of resistance and counter movement from the United States and the global West, the conceptual slash white West, to basically reinstate its control of the world and the global South. And in doing so, we could see a collaboration, a cooperation between countries such as Italy, the United States, Germany, France, Spain, basically the traditional conceptual white West to work together. So if the far right in Italy is strong and we are seeing the far right in the United States is strong, if Donald Trump goes rogue, which he is currently doing, and decide to form a coalition, an international global far right slash conceptual West coalition against the global South, I think it's going to be very much dangerous for the rest of the world. Because if we look at in the past, when people like Mussolini and Adolf Hitler were basically allies. Yes, Germany was much stronger than Italy. Italy was strong, but not to the extent that the United States is. And they both did not have the umbrella that the United States has to cover and basically galvanize the collaboration and cooperation of the West. So, with the power and might of the United States, countries such as Italy and Europe going rogue could mean suffering for the rest of the world, and especially. However, friends, in terms of Italy, it is very interesting. There are many who are calling or who are pointing to the fact that there is a similarity of what is happening in Italy today in terms of the decline of press freedom to the 1920s, 1924, and so on, and also to the 1930s, including the rise of the Nazi movement in Germany. But for Italy, it is one of the countries in the world that prides itself to be a democratic country, also pride itself to be a country that is strongly in support of press freedom. However, many institutions in Europe and in the West, the conceptual slash the white West, and including the European Commission, have been voicing their concern about press freedom in Italy. It is said that recently the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni had basically written a letter to the European Commission, basically pointing to what is happening or what she believes is happening in Italy, and that Italy, there is no case of the decline or a decline in press freedom, basically denying the concern that many institutions, prominent scholars, and observers on international relations and on the various topics relating to countries and international relations, basically denying that the allegation of the decline in press freedom is false. So that is very interesting. But, my friends, the fact that out of 180 countries in the world, in terms of press freedom, Italy, a Western slash white West slash global Western country, ranks 46 out of 180 countries is very interesting. It is remarkable. But we need to pay attention as a global South on what's happening in Italy and the rest of the global slash white West. Now, friends, in terms of what is happening in Italy, one agency or institution, which is the RAI, has been in the middle of what is happening, the controversy in terms of the press freedom decline. Now, RAI is said to have about 12,000 employees and also 21 TV stations, 16 radio stations, and also digital channels and so on. So RAI have seen some executives being fired or removed, okay, from air. So it is very interesting that RAI is remarkably a large institution in Italy, and it is said that about 58% of Italians trust RAI and the media, while about 20% of Italians do not trust RAI or the media. Italians, a very large majority of the country, do get their news from the media, okay, the press, the TV stations out there. So it is very interesting. But friends, Meloni, yes, is said to be or is known to be a far right prime minister. However, the situation in Italy is very interesting. Friends, if you are watching my videos for the first time or if you're new to this channel, The Echoing Voice, I want you to know that every institution, every prominent institution in the world does have at least one playlist on this channel. However, friends, every country in the world has at least two playlists. One is titled the country's name and the other domestic the country's name. And this is how it works. The country's name playlist will feature videos, talks, programs, or ideas focused specifically on the country's relations with other countries in the world and also in its region. The domestic the country's name playlist will feature videos, talks, programs, or ideas pertaining to the domestic situation in the country. And I hope, friends, you continue to be with us and tell me what you think. Now, friends, please tell me what you think, and I really want to know what you think. However, friends, I'm going to end here. I want to thank you for being a member of the Echoing Voice community, my friends. But most especially and most importantly, or most important, friends, I want to thank you a lot for watching the Echoing Voice. Peace, my friends. Peace.